great American workers. You know,
You
we are
said
going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. You said
armies
that's a
of
fact.
millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America are high school educated Americans. The core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build our next generation of America.
There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was a magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more, to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
Great American workers. You know, we are going to replace
on other
the
networks.
armies of millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great.
Screwing little screws into phones is going to come to America. Good morning. Rise and freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to the Wake Up America show, and that's on the 4 Liberty Network. Everybody enjoying saying goodbye to their retirement accounts? Yikes. Cringy, cringy, cringy. Welcome to the show. It's nice to see Drew Van Runkle. Those boos are not for me. Amy J. Eves, Frickety, Robbie Thurman, Floby Tenderson, Quest Fanning, Cecilia, Dadbod Bad Boone, Brad Beckman, Mr. Embry, Floby Tenderson, a nice crowd, Caleb Vanderfeltz, Kermode Bear. Good to see all you handsome, beautiful, sexy, gorgeous people here on the Wake Up America show, guys. Maybe I should turn on the sound effects. What do you think? Would you guys like to hear the audio effects? We're going to have a little bit of audio trouble this morning. Welcome to the show, guys. How about what I do is I'm going to turn on the sound effects. Then you might be able to hear them. Maybe. Maybe you'll be able to hear them if you're lucky, if I like you enough, okay? I'll let you guys hear the sound effects, but only if you call me something sweet. Only if you tell me, Austin, you're so attractive. You're so beautiful. You're so handsome. I love your mustache. Pretty much I love everything about what it is you do. So ask yourself this. Do you want some sound effects? Yes? Cheer, cheer. A little bit of audio weirdness this morning, but we're going to go ahead and just start it all over. There it is. And it's only been 78 days. No American president has disrupted so many aspects of the nation's daily life as President Trump. He's been in office less than 3 months. His no apologies agenda has made him the focal point of crucial decisions now being made in America's C-suites, on factory floors, in faculty lounges, elementary school libraries, and capitals around the world, as well as around kitchen tables right here in the United States. He's moved with astonishing speed to enact an immigration crackdown, cut the federal workforce, and demolish federal agencies. And for that, of course, we thank you. He is checking off a list of perceived enemies, firing people at will, nice, and slashing at major law firms that some advisors allege once aided investigations into his actions. He's asserting a broad mandate. Trump has worked with little regard for public criticism. In typical is he serious or not form, Trump now flirts with seeking a third term. It's a bold move, Cotton. In many ways, Trump is doing what he said he would be doing on the campaign trail, and aspects of his agenda, including deportations, do have broad public appeal. But the collective impact is, well, been leaving many of us like we're feeling hungover. Trump's tariffs, which is an effort to reshape the global system, has put many Americans in a defensive pose as they now have to decide how to handle the likelihood, or I would say the eventuality, of higher prices, and then a rout in the market that wiped out about $6.6 trillion in market value last week. Now, all the king's horses and all the king's men are telling us, well, this is just because we're trying to refinance the debt. So the problem with that logic, of course, and then they'll say, well, we need to refinance the debt, and then also we want the revenue from the tariffs. Okay, well, we just wiped out $6.6 trillion of values in order to save about $150 billion on interest and to bring in about $600 billion in revenue at best. Whoopsie. That doesn't sound right. And yet we are being told by the paid conservative shitfluencers of the right that we should all just sit down and take it. It's a intergenerational warfare as young Zoomers with an R after their name take up Bernie Sanders' socialist agenda and are now shouting, "Eat the rich." Meanwhile, horny communist women claimed that the tariffs will make men more masculine. And no, I'm not kidding. My old debating foil on Sirius XM Patriot Radio, Batya Sargon, Unger, Sargon, Naga, Nagahingana, Naga, not gonna find a man who can afford to take care of your high maintenance ass no more, said, the tariffs will make men more masculine. She couldn't just move to Eastern Europe and find herself a poor, broke, strong Hungarian man. No, she had to bring her communism to the United States and infect the Republican Party. And we're all looking this morning at the markets, watching in the biggest cringe we could ever imagine. Now, Trump's tariffs are making foreign adversaries of the United States starting to team up with what used to be America's allies, who now don't believe that they can trust the United States. America's allies and adversaries both are reviewing their military spending and wondering if they need to build a world that is all postured against the United States. Now, the United States is, to some extent, the most powerful nation in the world, but it's hard to believe that the United States can completely stand alone without any of the rest of the world. And our allies are shrinkingly few these days. So the question is are the trade-offs that we get with Donald Trump's administration worth the squeeze? Is the juice worth the squeeze? And that question will be answered this week as the stock markets will open this morning very soon. We're going to hear from John Miltimore this morning from the Foundation from Economic Education. And we're going to have a conversation with him this morning. Republicans say that they're tired of importing the third world, and yet they are all clamoring to import third world economic programs.
Great American workers. You know,
You
we are
said
going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. You said
armies
that to
of
Fox.
millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones.
Who's excited to get a job screwing in the screws in the iPhones? Yes, that's what we all went and got our master's degrees for. Yes, that is what we are all excited to do for. We got to bring back the screwing in the screws in the factory jobs. Those suicide nets will now be made in America. Proud to report. Trump has awakened an ancient god of trade. Thomas Sowell, still alive, still kicking. And anyone who disagrees with him here is functionally retarded.
What do you make of the present President of the United States and his tariffs?
It's painful to see what a ruinous decision from back in the 1920s being repeated. Now, insofar as he's using these tariffs to get very strategic things settled, and that he is satisfied with that. But if you set off a worldwide trade war, that has a devastating history. Everybody loses because everybody follows suit, and all that happens is that you get a great reduction in international trade. The other, it's disturbing in another sense. Franklin D. Roosevelt, when he was president in the 1930s, said that you have to try things, and if they don't work, then you admit it, you abandon that, and you go on to something else, and you try that until you come across something that does work. Now that's not a bad approach if you are operating within a known system of rules. Mm. But if you are the one who's making the rules, then all the other people have no idea what you're going to do next. And that is the formula for having people hang on to their money until they figure out what you're going to do. And when a lot of people hang on to their money, you can get results such as you got during the Great Depression of the 1930s. So if this is just a set of short-run ploys for various limited objectives, limited in time, fine, maybe. But if this is going to be the policy for 4 long years, that you're going to try this, you're going to try that, you're going to try something else, a lot of people are going to wait. I think what happened in the stock market recently, when things came down substantially for quite a while, and I note that various people are holding on to their money before they do anything because they don't know where this is going to lead.
There we go. That's Thomas Sowell. Give it up for the man. And if you disagree, you're in it. Donald Trump posted on his Truth Social account that he crashed the economy on purpose. That's going to be a really, really useful Democrat talking point in the upcoming midterms.
The market drop was part of a deliberate strategy to force the Fed to... The president retweeted a post that said the market drop was part of a deliberate strategy to force the Fed to lower interest rates. Is that the president's strategy? If not, why did he post it?
Yeah, that, the bottom line is the president has been talking about tariffs for 40 years, and this has been absolutely the policy that he's focused on in the campaign and throughout his political career. And, the cyclical cycle of the Fed, it comes and goes. That's a different matter. But this is President Trump's desired policy. He's been arguing for it ever since, I think he was on The View 30, 40 years ago. And it's exactly, the baseline tariff is exactly what he put into the convention. So,
but
this is not a surprise for anyone.
Is it his strategy to force the Fed to lower interest rates, and that the market crash was part of that strategy?
We understand the Fed is an independent agency. We respect the independence of the Fed. So but the president's allowed to have an opinion.
It's wild because now, all of the people who have been Fed haters on the right for so long that also don't agree with these tariffs, all of the people like myself who have been calling for an end to the Fed our best hope not to have a depression would be the Federal Reserve, which is the height of irony for someone like myself to say. It's so funny too, because all weekend as people were arguing over the tariffs, people were saying the stupidest shit on the right about the economy. I mean, the most people said things like, you won't miss your money, right? You won't miss your money. Yes, if there's one thing about Americans, it's they won't miss their money. But the most brain dead take that I've been hearing is that the stock market is not the economy. They say the stock market is not the economy, and they cheered online. All of the retards cheer. Yay. The stock market is yes. Okay, so let's just follow that logic, okay? The stock market is not the economy, which is why after the big crash, Black Friday, 1929, the stock market crash, there were no negative secondary effects to that. Yes. I posted that as a tweet, and it's kind of an IQ test. Some people, they maybe just don't know me, so they don't recognize my sarcasm, but you would think that anybody with an IQ above the, 85, 90 range might be able to tell that there were, that saying that there were no negative secondary effects of the 1929 stock market crash might be sarcasm. I don't know. Were you guys able to figure that out? If you saw that tweet online, let me know. So it's bad out there. Market turmoil deepens as Asia suffers historic routes. U.S. stock futures. They're trying to tell us that the price of oil going down. This is the sort of Baghdad Bob going on situation over at the White House right now. Everything's fine. Nothing's going on. Nothing's wrong. They're telling us everything's fine. Everything's fine. But the price of oil going down is not necessarily a good thing always. The price of oil going down could be a sign that that the futures people are predicting less demand for oil because productivity will go down. Not the kind of thing. Whoopsie. No. Not always a good thing.
Please, no.
Why are the prices going down, right? And the strategy seems to be it's all over the place. It's like, is it supposed to be that we are trying to get better trade deals? So in essence, that cuts apart the argument that we're going to start screwing in iPhones. I know everybody's Zoomer kids are all really looking forward to screwing screws into iPhones and everything like that. But is the message supposed to be that we're trying to get better trade deals, which in essence would be something closer to free trade, which is globalist, or is the argument that we want to keep the tariffs because the tariffs are going to bring back manufacturing? You can't have it both ways. You can't say on one hand, well, it's the art of the deal and we're trying to get better trade deals. Oh, so then you're a globalist. No, we're not a globalist. We want to bring manufacturing back to the United States. Well, then you're an isolationist. You want to bring manufacture back to the United States with the tariffs. You can't have it both ways. I mean, how is it I can see this? How is it that well, you know what it is? It's that these idiots that the president has brought in to manage the economy, of course they work at Harvard. Whoopsie. Elon Musk was the one who posted the Milton Friedman iPencil video, by the way, that I played for you this morning. But these kinds of messages that this is not even good for us, not even from the economy. It's not even good from an electoral perspective, right? We've handed the Democrats a massive victory. The entire campaign that President Trump, the entire platform, other than the immigration stuff, was that we were going to have a strong economy, that we were told that we were going to have lower prices. We were going to fight inflation. We've now just enacted the biggest tax cut, the biggest tax increase, single day increase in American history.
The president retweeted a post that said...
Did the audio just die for anybody else? Or are you hearing that? What is going on? Oh, there it is. I'm sorry.
The president retweeted a post that said the market drop was part of a deliberate strategy to force the Fed to lower interest rates. Is that the president's strategy? If not, why did he post it?
Yeah, the bottom line is the president has been talking about tariffs for 40 years, and this has been absolutely
everything's fine. No, we're not crashing the economy on purpose. I didn't have anything to do with that social media post.
the policy that he's focused on in the campaign and throughout his political career. And the cyclical cycle of the Fed, it comes and goes. That's a different matter. But this is President Trump's desired policy. He's been arguing for it ever since I think he was on The View 30, 40 years ago, and it's exactly the baseline tariff is exactly what he put into the convention. So,
but
this is not a surprise for anyone.
Is it his strategy to force the Fed to lower interest rates, and that the market crash was part of that strategy?
We understand the Fed is an independent agency. We respect the independence of the Fed. So but the president's allowed to have an opinion. Absolutely, the president's allowed to have an opinion. But there's not going to be any political coercion over the Fed, for sure.
So that is his strategy, tank the market so the Fed lowers interest rates?
No.
Well, you just said the president's allowed to have an opinion. Is that his opinion or not?
He's not trying to take the market. He's trying to deliver for American workers. And, I mean, what would you have him do? Again, real wages down 15 years in a row under the previous policy, and that's why Americans voted for him. They brought him in to turn the economy around for the American worker, and that's what he's focused on.
I'm just trying to get some clarity. Is that the president's strategy?
Clarity.
No, is that the president's strategy or not? He posted it. He said the strategy is for the markets to crash so the Fed lowers interest rates.
It's not a strategy for the markets to crash. It is not a strategy for the markets to crash. It's a strategy to create a golden age in America for the American worker. That's his strategy.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Idiots. Who are these idiots? Howard Lutnick, no Goodnick, another retard in the White House.
Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's...
Excuse me? The president is not supposed to run the economy. Get these guys out of here. Next, curtain call.
Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. He's been talking about it for 35 years. You got to trust Donald Trump in the White House. That's why they put him there.
Cringe.
Fix it.
I understand.
It's broken. Let him fix it. Our $36 trillion deficit, right, is going to ruin our children's lives and our grandchildren's lives. Let Donald Trump fix the American economy.
Let him fix the economy. Do we got to let him fix the economy or run the economy? Well, maybe he should run all of our businesses.
Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's...
Run the global economy? I thought we were not globalists. What is this? Who are these idiots? What is going on? Good morning, guys. Welcome to the Wake Up America show. Oh, my God. It's so bad out there. It's the worst of the worst.
And he wasn't kidding. The tariffs are coming. Of course they are.
Okay. Is the administration considering any kind of offset, any kind of subsidy? You mentioned the first administration, there was some bailout to farmers to help them deal with the pain from Chinese retaliation.
There it is.
Are you looking at that?
So the money that will be raised from the tariffs, the 300 to 600 billion approximately, right? We've lost 6 trillion in value, but the 300 to 600 billion we'll get for the 6 trillion we just traded for, right? That's going to be used to pay off the people who are the desired constituency for the votes in the next election. So this is all just a wealth redistribution program, but they're not socialists.
Now.
Not that I have not participated in any meetings with respect to that. The country is focused on...
This guy works in the way he hasn't participated in any meetings about that?
Trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. That's huge GDP.
Do you think that we could have built more factories if we had the 6 trillion we've already lost? Remember, when Biden was in office, I think the stock market went down 20% in like 3 years, right? We had a 15% decline in 3 days.
GDP. The factories being built in America are huge.
That takes
GDP.
years, and you've said that robots are going to fill
us.
those jobs.
Yeah, he did, by the way. But Howard Lutnick on another network said that the factories that are going to be coming here to the United States are not going to be manned. They're going to be run by robots, right? So Where's the job? A robot can't screw in a screw? Are we going to get jobs screwing in screws on iPhones, or are the robots going to screw the screws in the iPhones?
So those aren't
No, it's
union
really automated
worker jobs.
It's automated factories, but the key is who's going to build the
automated factories,
who's going to operate the factories,
robots,
who's going to make them work. Great American workers. You know,
AI is going to make it work.
We're
Said
going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. So
armies
that's a
of
fact.
millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones.
Who's all excited for your screwing in? That's why I went to college. Bernie Sanders is very pleased.
I believe in trade, but I believe in fair trade, not unfettered free trade. I do not believe that we should be shutting down factories in America and having corporations run to desperate countries where people are paid $1 or $2 an hour. I don't believe in that. The function of trade is not just to make large corporations wealthier.
Tariffs?
When tariffs are necessary, absolutely. We'll use all the tools that we have. I believe in trade.
Could you imagine, like, if Bernie Sanders had become the president of the United States and he had just like enacted fewer tariffs than right now, and like the economy would have actually done well? As an actual socialist might have managed the economy better than someone with absolutely no plan whatsoever. The messaging coming out of the White House, awful. Thank God, though, we do have Ben Shapiro, who I'm liking more and more. As the Jew haters in the Republican Party and on the right have been on the increase, I'm looking more and more like me joining Benny Shapiro over a Daily Wire team.
Yesterday, President Trump declared that it was, in fact, Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers.
One of the biggest tax increases on us, you and me.
Inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
If you think that the jobs that you're going to get are going to be bad, like if we're all going to be working in the mines, we're going to be all the kids. You know, the Minecraft movie came out. Maybe the kids really do still yearn for the mines. You know, send them back to the mines. Meanwhile, a shocking number of people admit that they would undergo the severance procedure in real life. Get this new television series that came out called Severance has inspired a lot of people to say that they would absolutely undergo the type of procedure that people undergo on this TV show. So a shocking new study found that over a third of real-life employees and nearly half of Gen Z polled would prefer to be, quote, severed like their favorite characters in the hit Apple TV series Severance. So out of 2,000 workers surveyed, a startling 35% said that they would be willing to undergo a medical procedure to, quote, sever their work memories from their personal lives. This is according to data that was gathered through market research. Among 18 to 25-year-olds, that figure rose to a staggering 46%. Among workers aged 55 and over, only 1 in 5 would want to be severed. The fact that so many employees relate to the characters in this show Severance shows just how blurred the lines between personal and work life have become. This research is a stark reminder of the stress and pressure American workers are facing today. The question is that would you do the same? If you could sever your work memories from your personal real life memories? Would you do it? An alarming percentage of workers are just as confused about their identity as the characters on this show. Over a third of survey respondents said 38% said that they have a, quote, work persona that is different from their real self outside of work, similar to the show's innies and outies. Among Gen Z workers, that figure rose to 52%. So understand this, that American workers right now, already depressed, unhappy with their jobs. Maybe Office Space was right. Maybe people don't want to sit in cubicles. Maybe they do want to yearn for the mines. Maybe they do want to work out in the real world, get some fresh air, do some manual labor, especially all of those people with back problems, with asthma, with all the obesity in this country. Maybe that is just what we need. We need a central economic committee to plan our not only our work, but we should also centrally plan our exercise. We can make America great again by forcing people to work outdoors and in dangerous mines and in landscaping jobs and nurseries. And then we can also make them healthy again by forcing them to get up early in the morning and do the Chairman Mao workout. Wei Shadi Zhu Mao, the great leader Mao, teaches us. We used to do this exercise in college. I remember my teacher, George Cron, used to have us do the Chairman Mao warm-up, the physical fitness plan. All right, everybody, it's time for us to do our physical fitness. The government has shown us. The great leader Mao teaches us. Here we go. 4-minute physical fitness. Good morning, America. Soviets. Everyone, stand up. Stand up. Stand up.
The great leader, Chairman Mao, teaches us. Promote physical fitness exercises and improve people's physical condition.
Everybody, get up off your couch.
We must always be ready to protect.
Where's my
our
AK-47? Get
now
up off your couches, goddammit.
Program.
Get up.
32 steps in place.
32 steps in place, beginning on the left foot now.
1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1. 1, 2, 1.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Good morning. So there we go. RFK Jr. Needs to take the lead. Coffee prices are going to go up. Mine haven't gone up yet, but if you do like Founding Flavors coffee, guess what? They don't grow this in the United States. It's coffee, you idiots. Not you idiots. You're not idiots. But the people who don't know. Coffee, actually, 99% of coffee not made in the United States. Hawaiian coffee, you can get Hawaiian coffee. It's really expensive and it's really not that good. But if you do like coffee, I don't know what's going to happen to our coffee business, guys. The prices are already high as it is. It's impossible for small people like us to be able to break into businesses. The government just is never going to let us succeed. So if you enjoy our coffee, if you like it, please do go. If you believe in free trade, then please do go support the Wake Up America show while you still can. Founding Flavors coffee available at forlibertyshop.com. That's the number for libertyshop.com. 41% of people struggle to switch off after work. 40% have been contacted by their employer outside of business hours, and 44% regularly check work emails or messages outside of work hours. They're going to pray. Americans are going to pray when they have to go back to the mines. They're going to pray that they could go back to the days when they would just get it, when they would get an email from their boss after work hours on their phone. A level of luxury that people have never seen before.
So what's happened to the world is the global governments have backed taking our factories away from us. I mean, there's nothing about Taiwan that they should be making semiconductors. There's nothing about Korea. They should be making all of the appliances and the electronics of the world. What's happened is they had a policy of their governments to let's back our companies and let's take this business from America while America's not paying attention. So our factories went overseas. But what you're going to see is the most modern factories of the world come back here. So what's happened to the world is the global...
Yikes. This Howard Lutnick guy is just, man, he is like... The Democrats actually want this guy to go on tour. They need to just not have the Democrats say anything and just keep letting... If the Democrats are smart, they'll shut up and keep letting their enemies make mistakes.
You've got to realize this is a national security issue. I mean, we don't make medicine in this country anymore.
Well, if it's a national security issue, why doesn't the government just build the medicine? It's a national security, so maybe you know what? Today, the new MAGA playbook: nationalize the factories.
Ships. We don't have enough steel and aluminum to fight a battle, right? All our semiconductors are made overseas, so every button we press when we try to start our car or even use our microwave, these are all semiconductors. They're all made elsewhere. We've got to start to protect ourselves, and we've got to stop having all the countries of the world ripping us off. We have a $1.2 trillion trade deficit, and the rest of the world has a surplus with us. They're earning our money. They're taking our money.
Right.
And Donald Trump has seen this, and he's going to stop it. So it is going to be a big change. Of course it's going to be a big change, but the rest of the world has been ripping us off for all these many years. Donald Trump has seen...
Yes, we've all been ripped off horribly by Zimbabwe. It's been terrible. Here's George Soros' protege and our illustrious Treasury Secretary.
Kristen, what I like is data.
George Soros is apparently good now. We'll own nothing and be happy.
And if we look at data from President Trump's first term, and there's a big study that just came out from a group of economists, mostly at MIT, that showed that a 20% tariff on China led to a 0.7% tax or price level increase over 4 years. I think that's pretty good. If we can take in 20% in tariffs and it's a 0.7% increase. And Kristen, the little publicized story this week, everyone wants to look at the stock market going down. You know what else went down? Oil prices went down almost 15% in 2 days, which...
And 15% in 2 days, not the own you think it is.
Tax working Americans much more than the stock market does. Interest rates hit their low for the year, so I'm expecting the mortgage applications to pick up.
Well, just to be very
clear. Why did the price of oil go down, Scott?
Though, I mean, during President Trump's first terms, the cost to Americans was nearly $80 billion in new taxes due to his tariffs. The prices did go up on everything.
The price, you'll pay less for gas, but you'll pay more for absolutely everything else. So it's a wash.
From washing machines to tires.
Well, no, but let's go back.
Yeah.
The aggregate number was 0.7, so we can discern the individual things. Also, households saw real net wages go up. So if wages go up faster than...
Look this guy up. This guy was a George Soros protege, right? So, if you stopped all economic activity, guys, if you really want to get oil prices down, we could just stop all economic activity. The prices will then go to zero, and then everybody can afford gas, right? Right? Isn't that how that works? And all of this, just to help out the housing market, essentially, right?
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thank you, Joni Rankin. Nice to see you for the comment. In June 1930, their Treasury Secretary said that the Smoot-Hawley tariff would aid business. The fears and criticisms have been greatly exaggerated. Wow. We do this massive tariff spike about once every 100 years. And we do it once every 100 years because you have to wait until everybody who has suffered from the effects of the tariffs, you have to wait for them to die so that you can try it again, these stupid ideas. And I'm just loving all of these posts. People who have been ripping on me, this one made me laugh. This guy says, this joker calls himself a sensei, and yet his avatar is clearly computer generated. The man's never been in a dojo in his life. Thankfully, I had this picture on hand. Sensei is my new title, of course. Back in the day, they used to call me the Freedom Ninja. And I'm pretty sure that this image is too pixelated. In 2007, this looks like me from, this is 2007, back in like I was just getting started in karate. But look how beautiful my form is. I think this isn't, but I'm doing one of my katas. I think this is Heian Nidon. So there I am doing my orange belt kata. Looking beautiful. Look how beautiful I was. But now I'm older and I've got a bigger waistline, and there it is, right? So, yes. So my question is this. Tariffs are good or are the deal? I don't get it. So every time a country like Israel, for example, says, okay, we'll do 0% tariffs, well, the people celebrate, or they say, okay, well, they're going to give us 0% tariffs. But people are like, oh, yeah, sweet, art of the deal. Okay, well, wait a minute, but I thought we were bringing back manufacturing jobs. Oh, we are, but there's no tariff. Okay, but it's art of the deal, right? What is it supposed to be, guys? And here it is, guys. This is the real story. Horny communist women who have joined the Republican Party in recent years supporting the tariffs say, crisis in masculinity. Batya Unger-Sargon claims that Trump's tariffs will make men more manly. There it is. See, these women, they couldn't get laid. They couldn't find a good enough man. And so they decided to bring their communist horse. See, all the men on the left, see, that's the thing, is that all the men on the left are such soy boys that these communist women, desperate for sex from strong men. You think I'm exaggerating or hyperbolic. This is a real story, okay? You made me talk about this. This is the news. But Trump's tariffs will make men more masculine, right? The crisis in masculinity. So the tariffs are going to help you soy boys out there be more masculine. Now, this is the crisis. So if the left had been more masculine, they probably would have won the election. But if the left had been more masculine, then the communist women would not have to do this. And if you think that the socialist women, self-centered socialist women, who are in part leading to the crashing of our economy right now, are limited entirely to former leftists, now Republicans, here's what the women in Congress, the Republican women and Democrat women, here's what the women in Congress are all focused on right now as the global economy is being brought to its knees.
Historically, it's been much more wealthy, older men who serve in Congress. This isn't designed for young families and for young women especially.
Congress was designed and built for old white men to represent themselves. And, we've made a lot of progress since then. We get into it because we're public servants and we care about representing our community. But there should be some accommodations for family things that come up, like the birth of a child.
It's not like I'm faking, to go party in Cabo. Right? Like I'm actually trying to recover.
Dude, she sounds like negative IQ. Good God, dude.
But then also care for a newborn.
Our job is to represent people. And I'm a 35-year-old woman. All of my friends are going through this problem right now. That is representing people.
The American people are not just single, older men with or without children.
I want to be able to represent my community and I want to be able to have a family, and it shouldn't be so hard to figure out how to do both.
Congress is so hard. I have to show up and stuff. I'm not trying to go to Cabo. I just want to be able to do proxy voting and stuff. This is what the ladies in Congress are focused on. Good morning, guys. Welcome to Wake Up America show. Sorry if you hate me right now, but truth is the truth. Yes, I voted for and supported Donald Trump. That doesn't mean that I supported everything. And no, I did not vote for this. But you did vote for this. this, the Democrats are saying, okay, well, you know, we had to defeat the left. The question was, did you want to vote for the Democrats, and the Democrat who would have, I'd be in jail right now for free speech, for speech code violations. So did you want to turn the United States into the UK, or did you want to turn the United States into, well, Zimbabwe? We want to trade. We don't want to trade deficit with Zimbabwe. I'm not a trust the plan kind of guy. I'm more of a trust but verify guy. I'm not a let him lead the global economy guy. I'm a say no more of faith in men, but bind them down with the chains of the Constitution. And I'm glad to hear that Rand Paul and many other Republicans are stepping up to remove the president's unilateral authority to raise taxes on the American people. And shame on my Senator Eric Schmidt for going out there and supporting this. Beware the sound of the man who says that America is not an economic zone. That is the sound of an approaching looter.
No offense, but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Thank you, Norm Macdonald. Austin is a very spicy pineapple today. I don't have any bonus content for you guys today, but I do want to say thank you for your support. Andy Opperman, we're glad to have all your support, guys. Please do drop those Rumble rants if you support the Wake Up America show and standing up for liberty, even when it's unpopular. So yes, so the question was to vote for turning the United States into Zimbabwe or turning it into the UK. At least if we turn the United States into Zimbabwe, at least we will have an opportunity for a revolution and people might actually turn around. But you know what? Maybe it'll be more like Argentina, and then one day we'll get our Javier Milei. Maybe it's going to be me. That's it. I'm running for president 2028. Is that the next presidential election? There we go. But as a Republican this time, what do you guys say? Who's on board? You can send us a text this morning at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586. Appears that some people definitely want to be able to get their coffee prices locked in right now. They're at forlibertyshop.com and they're buying coffee. Thank you to those who are doing so. We appreciate that. Thank you, Joel, bringer of steel, for the gifted memberships. Do visit forlibertyshop.com. Help us to unlock that bonus content. John Miltimore is going to be with us here live in 5 minutes. Yeah, the question was, did you want to vote for the United States to become Zimbabwe under Trump, or did you want us to turn into the UK like the Democrats?
Look at the elections. Trump has his highest approval rating yet right now. Seriously? No. So what parts of the federal cuts that Elon Musk is making are you against? Everything. You're against them finding the fraud in like Social Security? What? There is no fraud.
There is no fraud. There's no fraud in Social Security. At least with Trump, we got Elon, and Elon's not supporting this stupid bullshit coming out of the economics office. I hesitate to use the word economics office out of the White House. It's time, somebody has got to pull Lenny on Howard and what was the of Mice and Men, right? Pet the Rabbits. Somebody needs to take Howard Lutnick and Scott Bessent and Peter Navarro. Somebody needs to take these guys out and show him the river and tell him that he's going to get to pet the rabbits.
He's been talking about it for 35 years. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. He's been talking about it for 35 years. You got to trust Donald Trump in the White House. That's why they put him there. Let him fix it.
I understand.
Cringe. I didn't think we were running the global economy. It's a shame. We're going to speak to a man who knows a thing or two about economics. His name's John Miltimore from the American Institute of Economic Research. Prepare for the return of the master. It's the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your founding flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.
Are you tired of the strange radioactive effects of leftist culture? Do you ever wonder what happened to good old-fashioned American values? Well, fear no more, because there's a new force fighting back against the cultural rot of today. Introducing Culturama, a right-of-center talk show that's taking back the future today. Hosted by none other than blonde bombshell herself, Daniela Pensack. She's not just talking, she's taking culture back, with sharp takes, brilliant guests, and a few surprises along the way. Tune in to the live video podcast twice a week, because the future doesn't have to be weird. It can be Culturama.
If there wasn't going to be somebody who was a fiery champion of liberty, somebody who would get out there and who would be aggressive, and if they wouldn't do it with more fire or passion than I had, then I would go and I would fight this battle for us. I've fought for the principles that we all share. Parties tend to be secondary to me. We're here because we believe in the principles of liberty. I am not a perfect messenger, but I think I'm a damn good one. This is a replica of our first president's flintlock pistol. You have my full support, my respect, and my gun.
I think that at the heart of my philosophy is much more libertarianism than well, that's the fashionable word these days, I guess. A conservative is no longer just that. He's a libertarian and always has been.
Yet any time you and I question the schemes of the do-gooders, we're denounced as being against their humanitarian goals. They say we're always against things, we're never for anything.
What is fascism? Fascism is private ownership, private enterprise, but total government control and regulation.
Well, the trouble with our liberal friends is not that they're ignorant. It's just that they know so much that isn't so. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth. This is the issue of this election. Whether we believe in our capacity for self-government or whether we abandon the American Revolution and confess that a little intellectual elite in a far distant capital can plan our lives for us better than we can plan them ourselves.
The conservative, so-called, is the one that says less government, get off my back, get out of my pocket, and let me have more control of my own destiny.
Do you hate the deep state? Do you reject the Antichrist in all his ways?
Do you believe that aliens controlled LBJ to assassinate John F. Kennedy? Did you know that the shot can put chemicals in you that will make you more sensitive to 5G? Do you love America? Do you want more freedom? Do you like smoking hot redheaded libertarians? Then the AP for Liberty shop is for you! Check out all the awesome new merch and have a happy new year! Fight the deep state, reject the Antichrist! Visit AP for Liberty shop and get your patriotic merchandise now, or the deep state wins!
Broken. Let him fix it. Our $36 trillion deficit. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. He's been talking about it for 35 years. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows what he's doing. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. Let Donald Trump run the global economy. He knows.
Excuse me? Run the global economy? That's your Commerce Secretary right there, Howard Lutnick. Good morning, Rise and Freedom. I'm Austin Peterson. You're watching and listening to Wake Up America show. We need some people who know a thing or two about economics. As it turns out, Mondays with Miltimore is here to save our ass. John Miltimore from the American Institute of Economic Research, formerly at the Foundation for Economic Education, where I got my economic education, is joining us live right now. Good morning, John.
Hey, good morning, Austin. Yeah, I couldn't tear myself away from those stock market numbers this morning. I was enthralled.
Should we just let Donald Trump run the global economy? Just let him run the global economy. I thought that sounds kind of globalist.
Of course, right? Just give control to one guy. I don't think it's that simple. No, it's been kind of terrifying to watch the last week. I feel like I woke up in 1930. These tariffs were even worse than I expected. They're the highest tariffs we've seen since 1909. They're higher than Smoot-Hawley. Markets are responding rationally. These tariffs are going to be incredibly destructive. But the worst part, there's a lot of problems here. I am angry at the way the White House has sold this as a reciprocal tariff response. These tariffs are not reciprocal. And if you look at the formula the White House rolled out, it's bananas. And it's not even built on tariffs. It's built on trade deficits we have with other countries. If this was reciprocal, we'd have a 0% rate with Israel, who just dropped all their tariffs against us, in the lead up to this. Instead, we hit Israel with a 17% tariff. Why? Because we trade a lot of stuff with Israel, and we buy more from Israel than they buy from us. And that's really what it comes down to. These charts that Trump was holding, I bet you half a dozen people said, are these numbers real? And I said, no. This is something that they ginned up. It sounds like over the last few days when Trump, said, here's the numbers you got to hit. Here's what we want. Get me the formula that makes this work. So this isn't even reciprocal. There's an argument. I think it's a bad argument for reciprocal tariffs, but this is not that. And I'm really tired of Republicans coming to me like, this is the art of the deal. This is you just got to wait and see. I have faith in Trump. All those arguments to me are very, very bad arguments. Even if this is the art of the deal, what you've done is created so much market uncertainty that even if these tariffs go away, there's going to be carnage, mass carnage from this policy.
Yeah, it's already happening. I mean, and what's so weird is that the rhetoric that's coming out of Republicans these days is, I'm not being hyperbolic here. It is Soviet, right? It's actually, it's more like Klaus Schwab. It's like you hear them talking about a great reset. I saw the quartering out there saying, you will own nothing and be happy, essentially, right? You don't need the new iPhone. You don't need all these kinds of things. And it's like, okay, well, that sounds like what the Democrats say when it comes to our firearms. You don't need 30 rounds. You don't need, it's almost like they think we have no rights at all whatsoever to the fruit of our labor.
Yeah, you don't need those fancy television sets, and you don't need cheap clothing, right? You can pay some more for your clothing. We've adopted the Bernie Sanders, Nancy Pelosi rhetoric of 1995, of 2000. If you go back and watch those clips, these were the things they were saying. And they're saying, well, we need these trade barriers because we can't be competing with China, like where they pay people 50 cents an hour, and they're using all this workers of the world unite rhetoric, and saying we need to protect our workers, otherwise it's a race to the bottom. It's
the zero sum fallacy. It's the zero sum fallacy.
Yes. But for me, the hardest part, there's people I've known for 30, they've been free trade proponents for 30 years and are now arguing with me that these tariffs are actually good. And I said, if Bernie Sanders was doing this and markets were crashing, you would be freaking out. Your retirement would, and they actually admit that, but they think it's okay because it's Trump doing it. I don't understand this thinking. To me, it is. When you say Soviet, there's something wrong in America. Because we kind of felt this the last few years with the left, right? There was a brainworm with leftists who were just parroting whatever Biden said, and just had this weird faith in Biden, a man who was coming apart and was failing and was in cognitive decline. Now we're seeing Trump do this stuff, and Republicans, and I'm not talking about just some MAGA hat wearing, like just Joe Blow. I know a lot of intelligent, really accomplished people that are just saying, just calm down. Like you got to trust Trump. And I don't get this.
Yeah. I mean, I get it. I completely understand. I mean, he got rid of anybody who might actually contradict him. Although I don't know if you saw this, but did you see Elon Musk posted Milton Friedman's iPencil this morning?
I didn't, but I saw Bill Ackman chirping as well. I read some news stories. Again, I hate to even say it on your show because I trust the media so little. Mm-hmm. But NBC is reporting that Bessent is maybe looking for the exit door.
I saw that. Yeah.
I don't know if people fully realize like Trump could be in a very lonely spot in a month. Because nobody wants to ruin their reputation be associated with a policy like Smoot-Hawley that's going to bring the global economy to its knees.
How long do you think people are going to be able to take this? I mean, if he did something today, made a massive agreement like, oh, we're going to pause this for 30 days, it would still be a lot of damage that was done. But how long do you think people are going to let this drag out? I mean, because the American people, people like you and I, we have principles. So we're going to revolt right away when we see something that's done. But other people have to suffer before they do anything because most people feel their politics and they don't think their politics. So, I mean, later, how long do you think, though, people are going to be how long do you think people are going to allow themselves to suffer before they finally talk shit?
You have that 30% that's going to be, the economy could go down 50% GDP and they'll still be singing praise for Trump. I think that's how it is. When Trump would brag a few years ago about he could go on Fifth Avenue and shoot someone and his followers wouldn't care, those are the people I think that will follow him to the end. Again, you can't do much with a 30% majority. Trump came into office with historically high numbers by his standard, right? Like his numbers had never been so high. His approval ratings were hanging tight, even when things were, they're throwing the kitchen sink and everything else at him. This is going to change that. His numbers will be, coming down and continue to fall. If I want to push back on myself, the administration is out there saying we're in talks with 50 countries. We're gonna be doing things to lower. I hope that happens. But here's what I've been saying when I talk to people. If you listen to Trump and you listen to Vance, they don't want fair trade. They don't want free trade like you get rid of yours, we'll get rid of ours, and we're going to trade. They don't want that. They have this sort of nostalgic view of what America should be, where we have Ford plants that are making cars and we're making our own clothing, and we're, to use Vance's phrase, where we're self-reliant. This idea that we don't need to trade with other countries, and that's a really backward, bananas economic view. But I think Vance holds that idea. I think Trump holds that idea. So this idea that, okay, you drop your tariffs, we'll drop ours, I don't think they're interested in that.
Yeah, well, see, there's this. It's strange you say that, because I actually do hear that from some Trump administration officials and some of the supporters. They'll say, well, Vietnam offered to drop their tariffs to 0%. It's a huge win, art of the deal. But the problem with that is that the other people in the administration are saying that the tariffs are supposed to bring back manufacturing jobs. So they want to have it both ways. One, the tariffs will create jobs. Two, we're going to drop the tariffs, and therefore we're not going to create the jobs. We're going to let the jobs stay in Vietnam. It's this weird sort of bipolar, schizophrenic approach. And I mean, that's what I think is causing people like Bill Ackman to say things like, we are in the process of this. This is the guy, he's a billionaire hedge fund manager, and he was a big Donald Trump supporter. He called for a 90-day pause in the tariffs to negotiate with other countries, warning that the alternative was a, quote, self-induced economic nuclear winter. He says, we are in the process of destroying confidence in our country as a trading partner, as a place to do business, and as a market to invest capital. How do you react to that?
No, I've been watching Ackman for a long time and listening to him, and he's been one of the thought leaders over the last few years that has kind of pushed back on a lot of the woke left. So, and I have respect for Ackman. I don't agree with him on everything. I like what he's doing here. I think he could be a voice of reason. I think he's got Trump's ear to a degree. Trump should be listening to people like Ackman. I think you're right. I think Trump just surrounded himself with yes men to a degree. That people are just going to say yes to whatever he wants. And, there's certain leaders want that, right? Certain leaders actually don't want to be, people that actually push back, that argue. They want, like, no, you do what you told, what I say, and implement, this. And I get it. Like, all of us have to fall into line to a degree. We have to go and do but you need people that say, this is what's going to happen. This is, what, and you need people that are going to be upfront about the consequences. I don't think Trump has a whole lot of people like that. He's got a lot of sycophants around him, a lot of people who just kind of, we hear that term bootlicker a lot. And I don't like to use it because it's really demeaning. But I kind of think there's a lot of people in politics has that normally. Okay. I worked in politics, 20 years ago. And I remember thinking wow, this is kind of weird. People really do drop their own personal beliefs and just embrace that of the president or whatever. And I remember thinking, this is kind of strange. But I think politics is like that, and we're seeing it to a degree even more so. I think with Trump, I think he kind of wants that, maybe demands it even more. He needs some other voices. He needs some people that can say this is going to be catastrophic. And here's the thing: Trump wants to be a great president. I want Trump to be a great president. He is not going to be a great president with these policies, and he might make himself a historically bad president. He'll be right next to James Buchanan if he doesn't.
It's more like Herbert Hoover, right? Like the guy who set us up for an FDR, because
it's a better comparison. I say Buchanan only because he's ranked the lowest, usually
yeah.
lower than than Hoover.
Yeah, but I mean, like, it's a classic Herbert Hoover waiting for an FDR situation, right? I mean, there's talk about Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez running for president of the United States in the next election. You and I, it's going to be interesting when AOC is president, John, when she enacts her own tariffs and the Republicans are all against him, who's going to be on our side then? All of a sudden, all of our Republican friends will be back on our side. So, we'll be opposing the tariffs when AOC lays them when she becomes president, thanks to what they're doing now, right?
No, you're right. That dynamic, Hoover gave us FDR. Trump could end up giving us in AOC. And you're right. Here's the thing. It's like Republicans thought they could adopt the Democrats' playbook. Right? Like, hey, we'll be the guys, the workers of the world unite, that we're gonna use status policy is sort of like a political tool to get our base all fired up and to get around the working man. It's been catastrophic so far. Again, there is time to fix this, but I'm not sure that's exactly what Trump or Vance want. They seem to, and I push back on other people like, well, we got to bring manufacturing back, and I tell people, we can look at the data. Manufacturing is at a historic high in this country. Our manufacturing output is at a historic high.
But the Rust Belt towns, John. Yeah. But I watched the Netflix show about J.D. Vance's childhood growing up in the towns, the Rust Belt towns, John. What about the Rust Belt towns?
Exactly. No, this is what they've done. Like, no, I get there's the decay in this country, and you see it in small towns. You have all the drugs. It's a multi-faceted problem, but they're blaming it all on trade. And trade is what has made us so wealthy. And if you look at what the average American spends on like clothing today, it's a fraction of what we were paying 34 years ago. It's about 25%. And our wardrobes are bigger. We have more. Like, all trade has made us more prosperous. But yeah, there are a lot of problems in this country, but it's like they're using tariffs as a weapon to tap into the resentment Americans feel about their country going to hell and about some of these class divisions. And it's going to make us all worse off.
Yeah. So the question about the manufacturing, or the point that you made about manufacturing being at an all-time high, I saw that fly past my timeline this weekend as well. Where did you source that? Just because I want to grab that, and I'd like to be able to share that with people.
That's either Board of Advisors or Federal Reserve data. I got a screenshot I can share for you, or I can pull the right numbers. And yeah, I dug into them this weekend. It wasn't even something I saw. I actually, like you maybe, Austin, I was having Twitter spats and going back and forth with people on Substack. And the guy's like, well, we got to bring manufacturing back. And I just said, and that's why I pulled the numbers, but I'm happy to share that with you after the show.
Yeah, here it is. I found it. LA Times. It's also worth noting, U.S. manufacturing output, even adjusted for inflation, is near all-time highs, while about 5% below its December 2007 peak. It's up 177% compared with 1975, the year America last ran an annual trade surplus. So what is it that these people, what is it, just the specific towns? Because here's the thing, people are like, I hear from people online, they're like, my town has been devastated. And I'm like, where do you live? Because the town that I grew up in, like, I was just visiting my family farm this weekend, to spend a little time with the, grandpa and the grandbaby. And my old town is bustling and booming. Right? Like, people act like, is it the job of the government to like make that your particular town industrious? Because my old hometown is doing quite well. So
I can actually, add some personal perspective here. I come from small town Wisconsin, blue collar country, paper mill country. We have a paper mill factory in my Nakusa, Wisconsin is where I'm from. Our mill is still up and running. Okay. And most of the people that I grew up with and their families, like that mill kind of employs, most of the town. Other towns nearby have seen paper mills go down. And I think that there is part of this where you've seen, a shift where some of these small towns are struggling. They are dependent on manufacturing that it was there. And my town would be a ghost town if that paper mill ever went down. And I think I will say this, that town is struggling a bit. Like, it's not even the town I grew up, population's the same. They got more drug problems. There's more social dysfunction, but you can't blame that on free trade. It's not a problem of trade. There's a lot of other problems, that you can identify: increased drug use, the nuclear family, more and more divorces, and there's a lot of there's some rough items there, but it's not a trade problem. And families are still wealthier today than they were 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 40 years ago. But there's some sketchy things that go along with it, because I think middle America or small town America has struggled a little bit. And I think there is, but their government has caused a lot of these problems. And when we look at the wealthiest counties in America, they're all right by DC, right? Like what we've seen is as the feds have gotten more and more involved, they have made, I think, some of these income inequality, they've made it a bit worse. People see that, they feel it. And this is just sort of an off the cuff. There's a lot that goes in. A lot has changed in the last 30 years, but what I think you have is Trump has kind of tapped into that resentment, right? And tariffs are a tool that they do that. You can say, like, China has been taking advantage of us. Vietnam has been taking advantage of us. And there's great power politically in tapping into resentment. And I think that tariffs have historically been a tool for that.
What should people be doing right now that are watching all of this unfold right now? Like, most people like you and I, John, they're not going to read the white papers, right? And a lot of people aren't even going to be following what's going on X. They're going to, some of them are going to be watching television, cable news. And if they're watching Fox News, did you see that Fox took down the stock ticker off of the thing for the first time for like forever years? It's been like 19 years they've had that stock ticker up. They took it off of the screen. Did you notice that? Did you hear that?
It's just shameless. No, yeah. like how can you do something like that? I would say people don't stare at the stock market right now.
Yeah, don't look at it.
And don't put on cable, MSNBC or Fox.
Yeah.
Turn it off and think about, if you want to think about this a little bit, study a little bit about I shared something recently, just an article on Churchill, there's some good perspective here. Churchill gave a famous speech in Manchester at Free Trade Hall about 120 years ago. And the British Empire was going through this exact same thing. And Churchill was a conservative, but his party was going very anti-immigrant, and they were going very anti-trade. And Churchill delivered one of his best speeches. And in fact, it kind of 6 months later, he was out of the Conservative Party and joined the Liberal Party. Now, he wouldn't stay there forever, but it shows these issues. We've been arguing about these things for a very long time. We've been fighting about the trade, immigration. These are important things. Get some perspective on them. Study some of the economics and not the things necessarily. I'm saying go read what Adam Smith had to say about tariffs. Go read what Thomas Sowell, Milton Friedman have said about tariffs. Even Paul Krugman. You can find other economists that might be different politically that have some pretty good things to say. And even if you go to AIER.org, I think we have some articles that we're not going to ever say tariffs are good. Tariffs, like anything, they do come with trade-offs. Understand what those trade-offs are. And understand that, what I'll say is, like, the benefits of tariffs are never going to outweigh the consequences.
John, we hear a lot of talk about, slave labor that's being used to manufacture a lot of our goods. So, I took a look into this, and I found that most of these Chinese workers, the ones that are working in these factories that have like the suicide nets and things like that, they're working in factories, but we took a look at the data for what types of professions these people were working in before they were working in the factories. Do you know what one of the top professions was for these factory workers was?
No idea.
Prostitute. So
I think that's great perspective. Like, here's something I don't remember who pointed this out. I think it was something that I saw Milton Friedman say. If you go back, let's not forget how poor China was, like, say, in 1979, right? China was one of the poorest countries on the planet. And the Chinese people, the Chinese Communist Party of all people, recognized it. And what they do, they began a privatization effort. They began to trade with other countries, open their markets. They joined the World Trade Organization in 1997 or something. It was during Clinton, his administration. China, I get it. People are like, well, you can't have somebody working for $1 a day. People don't realize how poor China was. And to say that this is all slave labor, it ignores the reality of the situation in China. These are very good jobs for people. And China's getting wealthier too. Remember, we've spent the last 10, 15 years hearing about what a threat they are. China's getting wealthier, and as they get wealthier, some of these jobs won't make sense there either. And I get how some people could be, morally say, well, this is awful. How can we have people working for that wage or doing that conditions, or they don't have an OSHA that protects them if they hurt their thumb while they're working on a machinery. Those concerns, I think I understand what you're saying. What you need is the context, right? And your point's a great one. Do we want people selling their bodies instead?
Well, see, what the Republicans, right? What the Republicans don't understand is the same thing that the Democrats don't understand, is that capitalism comes in stages, and that China was lucky in that they could steal our intellectual property and see use our example to build up their economy. But even still, you can't build a manufacturing base overnight. What the tariff supporters don't understand is that it would take years to rebuild a manufacturing base that would provide the same decades to build a manufacturing base that would in any way resemble what we have right now. And what we have right now is actually pretty damn good. Like you said, manufacturing at all-time highs from the 1970s, like everything's amazing and no one's happy. It feels like a bunch of fat slobs with iPhones, with Chinese phones, who are unhappy with their lives, on drugs, clinically obese, that just wanted to blow things up because they didn't know any better. They didn't know how good they had it, John.
Yeah, no, I've been saying this for years. Americans are blind to the prosperity around them. And that's a very dangerous thing, because you're right, we have so much, but people are unhealthy and unhappy. And when you're unhappy, people will use resentment to win elections. And I think that's sort of, I really believe that's what we're seeing. Like we've tapped into resentment. And it's strange because you can go back to, 30 years, and Trump was talking about this in 1985. You can see him like, oh, we're being taken advantage of. We're being ripped off. We're being, China's taking advantage of us. Japan's taking advantage of us. All these countries are taking advantage by selling us affordable products. I mean, that's really what it comes down to. Dave Chappelle had a great, I don't know if it was new or from a few years ago, but he was talking about, I don't need to make Nikes. He said, I want to buy Nike.
Yeah.
Right? Like, we don't need to be making them here.
Yeah. Yeah, no, we don't. John, it's 8:30, and I know that you're a busy guy. Do you have to run and get off to another interview? Because I do have a few more questions to talk about. But if you got to go, it's okay. Let me know.
No, I got a few. I don't have a hard stop, so I'm happy to talk for a few more minutes.
Okay, on the political side of these things, not just the economics, a lot of these like rich Republican influencers telling their fellow Americans to work in factories is it's pretty rich. How do you respond to a lot of these influencers? Have you seen them posting the same thing, like copy pasta? It's just 100. Here, let me tell you this, John. Actually, here's how I should frame this question. I see like 150 of these accounts posting this. Here's what they're all saying. If tariffs didn't work, 170 countries wouldn't be tariffing America. How do you respond to that, brain buster?
It's so frustrating. There was a really good response. Like, I think Jason Brennan pointed out, like, you point that, do you realize there's a whole field in economics that explains why that this happens? Like, why governments pass these policies, even though they're harmful? James Buchanan won a Nobel Prize for it in 1986. Public choice theory, go check it out. If you're listening here, go check out why governments, pass these policies that are harmful. You have special interests that are pushing for them. Politicians can benefit from them. Doesn't mean that it's going to help people in a country. But yeah, I see this like Besant himself, I saw, he's like, oh, we don't need cheap TVs, right? We don't.
Oh my God.
TVs. And he's a guy that's was running a hedge fund and swimming in millions of dollars. I think Americans like having cheap TVs, and we like having nice TVs more than cheap ones. We like having nice TVs we can afford. And affordability, Pete Earle is one of the scholars at our institution, at American Institute for Economic Research, and Pete had one of the best pieces I've read in a while, and he talks about affordability being part of the American dream. And it was tied to exactly what Besant was saying, in that no, we don't need central planners to decide for us what we should have, right, or what we should want. That is up to every individual. And if your ambition in life is to get a really nice TV, and I would say, what, if it was a friend, say, get some more ambition. But you know what? I got a nice TV in my living room. I love it. And I love to have people come over and watch the Super Bowl on it. Like having affordability, we get to decide then what we want. I don't like somebody in Washington, whether it's Scott Besant or whether it's somebody on the left, saying like, this is what you should want, John. Affordability is part of the American dream, and trade is what helps us achieve that.
Yeah, absolutely. That's John Miltimore. Jim Cramer just announced today, don't panic. Your thoughts?
I'm selling it all. I'm start dumping.
I'm not joking. He said that.
Interesting. Just to go back to just for one more minute to what you were saying about people in different, wealth categories, maybe how they're experiencing this. I had dinner with somebody in GOP politics on Saturday night, and very successful, very wealthy, and would just kept saying, no, this is the art of the deal. This, this is the, trying to tell me that the politics is going to work. Now, he's not hurting for money. He's very wealthy. He's not going to feel the price increases the same way others will. He got all his money out of the market about 12 months ago. Good move for him. But it's easier to kind of sit back and shrug these things off if you are one of those lucky people who you're not going to feel much, even if the market does decline 20%.
It did.
Prices do
14%. The markets just opened 2 minutes ago. Stocks tumbling. Asian markets suffered historic declines. We are entering recession territory as we speak. Trump posting right now, don't be weak. In a post on Truth Social, the president said the U.S. has a chance to do something that should have been done decades ago. He says, don't be a panican, he says. New term he's coined this morning. A new party based on weak and stupid people. Be strong, courageous, and patient, and greatness will be the result. It's ironic that he says don't be weak, and yet the tariff is meant to protect weak companies. I like companies that don't need tariffs.
Hey, well said. No, Trump is making Democrats great again. Like their approval rating was 29% or something I heard recently. Oh, they're going to be suddenly looking like a much better option. We're witnessing insanity, and I don't know. Weakness has nothing to do with it. People don't want to see their retirement wiped out. People want to see sensible policy. This isn't what Republicans voted for.
I guess so. It's I don't know how to react to this. I mean, I'm not a stock market show, so I mean, I don't know if I need to like pull up the stock market right now for people, but it's going to be kind of grim. I've still got another 30 minutes on this show. I don't want people to freak out, and I don't want people to panic. But I mean, here's the thing. People they come at you personally, and they're like, oh, Austin, you can't sell cheap T-shirts from Bangladesh or something like that. It's like, well, I always believed in free trade, so I'm not a hypocrite. I've always believed in international free trade, but we do sell coffee at the shop, and it's kind of like, the prices are absolutely going to go up. It's hard enough to make money in this business, but in terms of the personal thing on this, I'll tell you this, John. My dad, he's 82 years old, love him to death. If he's listening, Dad, I love you. Don't be mad at me for talking about this, but it's like, he's getting kind of hard of hearing. You have to shout at the old timer, right? And he's a wonderful guy. He loves working. He doesn't want to quit working. He saved up some money in retirement, and it's like, I want Dad to like try and retire and stop working. He works these dangerous jobs. And it's like, you got all these people out there who are talking shit in the stock market, and they don't seem to understand the human cost is that my dad chooses to work in dangerous jobs, and I want him to retire. But there's a lot of people who probably wanted to retire. Now they're going to have to go back to work for another couple of years, 2 or 3 years, or maybe they're never going to be able to stop working thanks to things like that. There is a human cost to what the president is doing right now, and not enough people are paying attention to that. I'll give you the final word to respond to that and your thoughts on it, and then we'll let you go.
No, I think you're right. We're being liberated from prosperity. These were the Liberation Day, tariffs, and we're being liberated from prosperity. It's disappointing to see. This was a president I wanted to root for. I wanted him to be successful, and his presidency is going to be a disaster if he cannot fix this soon.
John Miltimore, where can people find your work online?
Besides the organization, check out my Substack is JJ Milt, The Take, by John Miltimore on Substack. I write there almost every day, so check out my stuff.
Love you, John. You're amazing. Monday's the Miltimore.
Great being with you, AP. Have a good one.
Great being with you as well. All right, I'm going to go take a break, guys. I need to go read the stock market and see what's going on in the news because it's breaking. It's very bad, and I don't want to misinform you guys. I need to get up to speed. So play a little, I'm going to play the bonus content from Friday. Enjoy it. I'll be right back on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Don't go away. Let's talk whiskey. Not just the kind you drink when the day's been long and the news cycle won't shut up, but the kind that now costs 25% more because of tariffs that just went into effect. And yes, I know, I've said plenty of good things about President Trump. He's done more for the American worker, the economy, and shaking up the establishment than most Republicans have in 40 years. But on this one, these tariffs? I've got to call it like I see it. This is a bad move. Now look, this wasn't a sneak attack. Trump's been talking about tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a while, and he's followed through. A 25% tariff on imports from 2 of our biggest trading partners is now in full swing, and it's hitting everything from cars to, you guessed it, whiskey. That $20 bottle of Canadian rye on your shelf, it's now going to run you $25. Not because demand went up, not because grain is scarce, but because the federal government decided to step in and help you with more taxes. This is the problem with tariffs. It sounds tough. We're taxing them. We're sticking it to foreign countries. But in reality, we're the ones who pay. Tariffs are taxes on imports, and importers pass those costs on to consumers. You, me, the guy just trying to unwind with a little something neat in a glass. And let's not forget how these tariffs happened. President Trump used a law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, IEPA, to push these through. It was originally designed to give the president power in a genuine crisis, like war or sanctions against hostile nations, not to slap taxes on whiskey from Canada. Last I checked, Canada was still the country that says sorry when you bump into them. This is executive overreach, and yeah, I said it. Even for a president I support, the Constitution gives Congress the power to regulate trade and impose taxes. That's not just a dusty rule. It's one of the cornerstones of American government, and we've let that power drift over to the executive branch, where one person can decide what costs more at your grocery store, your gas pump, and now your liquor cabinet. To their credit, a few folks in Congress are finally starting to stir. Representative Susan Delbene and others are pushing a bill to make sure presidents can't just throw tariffs around under the banner of emergency powers without Congress signing off. And good, because we need checks and balances no matter who's in the White House. Even if it's a president we voted for, even if it's someone who we believe fights for the country. Because here's the truth, tariffs hurt us. They hurt small businesses, farmers, and working families. They jack up prices, slow down trade, and invite retaliation from other countries. And worst of all, they give the government another excuse to reach into your wallet without asking. Now, I'm not saying we roll over for bad trade deals, far from it. But if we want fair trade, let's negotiate like adults. Let's cut red tape. Let's open up markets and level the playing field, not punish American consumers just to make a political point. So here's to a little tough love. I can support the man while opposing the method. That's what real loyalty looks like. Telling the truth, not just nodding along. And if we're being honest, the next time you're paying $5 more for that bottle of Canadian whiskey, you're not going to toast the tariff. You're going to wonder why someone who gets so much else right decided to take a sledgehammer to your bar tab. Here's hoping we can raise a glass soon to liberty, to low taxes,
and to better trade policy. Because if I'm going to pay 25% more for something, it sure better come with a bottle opener and a steak.
Pain in the market. At some point, you're unwilling to tolerate this idea of a Trump put. Is there a threshold?
I think your question is so stupid. I think it's I don't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. And we have such a horrible, we have been treated so badly by other countries because we had stupid leadership that allowed this to happen. They took our businesses, they took our money, they took our jobs, they moved it to Mexico, they moved it to Canada, they moved a lot of it to China, and it's not sustainable. We're not going to do it. Now we have hundreds of billions of dollars is pouring into our country. On a monthly basis, it's pouring, it's already started because they put tariffs on. And eventually it's going to straighten out and our country will be solid and strong again.
Is there pain in the market? At some point, you're unwilling
weekend about the tariffs.
Yeah.
Sir, have you talked to any tech leaders over the weekend about the tariffs?
Yeah, I talked to the biggest in the world. I talked to the biggest of them all. Many of them, but I've talked to, I would say 4 or 5 that are considered the biggest. They don't, you know what they said? We don't blame you.
Sir, have you talked to any tech...
Hashtag doubt.
I do want to solve the deficit problem that we have with China, with the European Union and other nations. And they're going to have to do that. And if they want to talk about that, I'm open to talking. But otherwise, why would I want to talk? And as you know, because of the tariffs, we have $7 trillion already committed to be invested in the United States, building auto plants, building chip companies, and all sorts of companies are coming into our country at levels that we've never seen before. Biden had nothing coming in. This was a dead country with Biden. He didn't know what he was doing, and that's now been proven at least.
Anybody missing the Biden economy right now? I mean,
but it sounds like some fucking commie gobbledygook.
Trust the plan. Trust the plan. It's the experts. Yes. Good morning. Welcome to the Wake Up America Show. I'm your host, Austin Peterson. We're glad and thankful to have you here. Click the like button if today's your first time watching the Wake Up America Show. It's a little different today. We'd be glad to have you be a regular guest Monday through Friday, 7 to 9 a.m. Central Time. That is the show schedule. You can text the show at 573-319-1586. That's 573-319-1586 is the text line. Let us know what's on your mind. Again, 573-319-1586. While we're watching the markets this morning, stocks are extending their tumble as the market turmoil is deepening. The S&P 500 hitting bear market territory. Oil is falling on the possibility of reduced growth. President Trump, standing firm, says that he doesn't want anything to go down, but sometimes you have to take medicine to fix something. The greatest single-day tax increase by one person in American history. Stocks fell, of course, 3%, heading down towards 4%. The S&P is pulling into bear market territory. This is often defined as following a 20% plus decline from a recent peak. Wall Street's fear gauge, the VIX, leapt as investors are bracing for further volatility ahead. We've got lots more to go. Global markets are recoiling as well. In Asia, where many economies are highly trade reliant, stocks plunged there as well. Hong Kong's main equity benchmark, 13% down. Europe not spared either. They're down 4%. Bitcoin and oil prices both falling. Benjamin Netanyahu is set to be the first world leader to hold in-person talks with Trump's about the tariffs. U.S. officials said that about 50 people in China, about 50 countries had reached out to start negotiations. Here's what Barack Obama had to say about it over the weekend.
Imagine if I had done any of this.
Yeah.
Let me just, I just want to be clear about this. Imagine that
The worst person you know makes a good point. If the Democrats had done this, then instead of me trying to burn down the White House, all of my Republican friends who are angry at me this morning, telling me that money doesn't matter, that we need a great reset, that you will own nothing and be happy, they would all be rallying to my side. But because there's an R after the name of the person who's doing this to us, all of a sudden it's a big deal. Why? Don't do this. Don't let the Democrats win. Do not let them in. Thank God there is at least one voice of reason in the White House. And Elon Musk is out there posting Milton Friedman posts this morning.
I hope that the United States and Europe can establish a very close partnership. We obviously are, there's an alliance already, but I'm hopeful that there can be a very close relationship with America and Europe. And I'm hopeful, for example, with the tariffs, that at the end of the day, I hope it is agreed that both Europe and the United States should move, ideally, in my view, to a zero tariff situation, effectively creating a free trade zone between Europe and North America.
Free trade. Listen to him. He's the only one in the White House saying these things.
And that would be that's what I hope occurs. And also more freedom of people to move between Europe and North America, if they wish. If they wish to work in Europe or wish to work in America, they should be allowed to do so, in my view. So that has certainly been my advice to the president.
Yeah, nobody's listening. Why can't Elon Musk be in charge of the economic situation? And it's a crisis of masculinity. The Fox News pundit Batya Ungar-Sargon says that the tariffs will make men more manly. There it is. That's the situation, guys. It's that you're not a man. There seems to be a mistake. I planned on working in a steel factory with my boys, making $430,000 a year once the tariffs took effect. Sew my socks for $5.50 an hour for 12 hours a day. Explaining Trump's tariffs. Simple way. He just likes tariffs and always has. Explaining Trump's tariffs. Impose big tariffs. Bring all major U.S. debt holders to heel. Make them accept long bonds and not devalue or else more tariffs. U.S. debt stabilized, global economy rewired. Yes, he just likes tariffs.
President Trump declared that it was, in fact, Liberation Day, his giant tariff policy that he just dropped on the market unilaterally, probably unconstitutionally. Trump's reciprocal tariffs impose hundreds of billions of dollars in new taxes on Americans, be the largest tax increase since the Revenue Act of 1968. One of the biggest tax increases on American consumers in the history of America. And it's going to cost American consumers. It will cost American producers who use inputs from other countries. The Dow Jones Industrial Average plummeted immediately more than 1,000 points. The S&P 500 plummeted more than 3%. The NASDAQ plummeted almost 4.5%. There are real-world implications for this sort of stuff. Trade wars are, in fact, not good and not easy to win, particularly if you don't actually have a plan. It is predicated on a bad idea of how international trade works. A fundamental misunderstanding of trade deficits. Trade deficits they're an accounting procedure. Trade deficits have pretty much nothing to do with the health of an economy. I can name you a period in American history where there was a fairly large surplus in America's balance of trade. The entire Great Depression.
Ben Shapiro is right.
He announced it, and he wasn't kidding. The tariffs are coming. Of course they are.
Okay. Is the administration considering any kind of offset, any kind of subsidy? You mentioned the first administration, there was some bailout to farmers to help them deal with the pain from Chinese retaliation. Are you looking at that now? I
have not participated in any meetings with respect to that. The country is focused on, you realize trillions of dollars of factories are going to be built in America. That's huge GDP. The factories being built in America are huge.
That takes
GDP.
years. And you've said that
is going to
robots are
matter
going to
to
fill
us.
those jobs. So those aren't
No,
union
it's really automated
worker jobs.
It's automated factories, but the key is who's going to build the factories, who's going to operate the factories, who's going to make them work. Great American workers. You know,
You
we are
said
going to
robots
replace
on other
the
networks. You said
armies
that to
of
Fox.
millions of people. Well, remember, the army of millions and millions of human beings screwing in little screws to make iPhones, that kind of thing is going to come to America. It's going to be automated, and great Americans, the trade craft of America, is going to fix them, is going to work on them. They're going to be mechanics. There's going to be HVAC specialists. There's going to be electricians. The trade craft of America are high school educated Americans. The core to our workforce is going to have the greatest resurgence of jobs in the history of America to work on these high-tech factories, which are all coming to America. That's what's going to build
factories. Everyone very excited to work in the steel mills, screwing in screws in the iPhones. That's why we all got loaded up with all that student debt, right? Isn't that why we went and did all this? Because we all wanted to go and work in the factories? I thought that, is that why we all sent our kids off to college to go and work in the factories?
There's not a single person in the world who could make this pencil. Remarkable statement? Not at all. The wood from which it's made, for all I know, comes from a tree that was cut down in the state of Washington. To cut down that tree, it took a saw. To make the saw, it took steel. To make the steel, it took iron ore. This black center, we call it lead, but it's really graphite, compressed graphite. I'm not sure where it comes from, but I think it comes from some mines in South America. This red top up here, the eraser, bit of rubber, probably comes from Malaya, where the rubber tree isn't even native. It was imported from South America by some businessmen with the help of the British government. This brass ferrule, I haven't the slightest idea where it came from, or the yellow paint, or the paint that made the black lines, or the glue that holds it together. Literally thousands of people cooperated to make this pencil. People who don't speak the same language, who practice different religions, who might hate one another if they ever met. When you go down to the store and buy this pencil, you are in effect trading a few minutes of your time for a few seconds of the time of all those thousands of people. What brought them together and induced them to cooperate to make this pencil? There was no commissar sending out orders from some central office. It was a magic of the price system, the impersonal operation of prices that brought them together and got them to cooperate to make this pencil so that you could have it for a trifling sum. That is why the operation of the free market is so essential, not only to promote productive efficiency, but even more, to foster harmony and peace among the peoples of the world.
It's going to be a rough day. Don't look at your portfolios, guys, and don't listen to rich Republican influencers who tell you to own nothing to be happy. I'm Austin Peterson. I'm a middle-class Republican influencer who wants you to get rich and be happy, that money matters, that when someone says that money is the root of all evil, you should run like hell. That is the sound of a leper's bell. It is the approach of a looter. Support the Wake Up America show. Click that like button, and as you exit through the grift shop. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the future. One thing's for sure. As long as you support the Wake Up America show with your purchases at forlibertyshop.com and your Rumble Rant donations, and as long as you keep tuning in, clicking that like button and clicking the follow button as well, we will have a thriving podcast business for sure. You guys are going to work in the factories and in the mines. I'm going to continue working my podcast business. There we go. You can all work in the factories here. Yes. Go work in the factories. Yes. I love hearing from the rich Republican influencers in their $1 million studios, telling everyone, go work in the mines, go work in the factories. Well, why don't you go work in the factories, Tim Pool? What about you, Benny Johnson? You going to take one of those manufacturing jobs? They won't. Thanks for tuning in, guys. We'll see you guys right back again here tomorrow if the country's still here on the Wake Up America show on the 4 Liberty Network. Tired of spending your hard-earned money on woke corporations that don't share your pro-freedom values? Fed up with sipping liberal lattes and progressive cappuccinos? Introducing Founding Flavors from AP for Liberty Shop. Get your day started with Washington's Revolutionary Roast. As robust and principled as the man himself, this blend is the shot of energy heard round the world. Or maybe you want to taste the fervor of freedom with Adams's Patriotic Perk. It's as dynamic and balanced as the U.S. Constitution, sure to awaken your spirit of liberty. For the aficionados, we've got the Jeffersonian Java, a complex mix of flavors that speaks volumes about your refined tastes. And don't forget Betsy's Liberty Lullaby, our decaf option, crafted with the same care and dedication Betsy Ross put into our Star-Spangled Banner. This blend lets you enjoy the taste of freedom anytime without losing sleep. No woke beans here, folks. Just pure, patriotic, pro-freedom flavors brewed with love for liberty. So why compromise your principles for a cup of coffee? Stand up for your values, perk up your patriotism, and start your day the American way. Get your Founding Flavors at apforlibertyshop.com.